7 months? Kid? How's it been?
Rough.
Why?
Postpartum depression. The changes with Eiley. There's been a whole lot. There's a whole lot to say there.
So, open up. Talk about it. What is it? What has been the hardest part?
Isolation, depression, trying to figure out our new normal still, which I'm annoyed that it's still taking so long. Because I just want things to feel like settled, which they're starting to finally. But everyone, I feel like it was frustrating because after we had Zeke, everyone, it was always like one thing after another, and everyone would always be like, just wait till you get to 6 weeks, you'll be feeling better. Just wait till you get to 2 months old, you'll start feeling better. Just wait till you get here, you'll be feeling better. Oh, when, this is solved, you'll feel better. And it's just like, I kept holding out for those moments and they never came.
Yeah.
So
it sounds like a little bit of like expectations that other people put on a timeline, and just the idea that there's no such thing as a timeline, especially with kids.
No. Yes, but no. Like, when I say timeline, I mean like the baby blues, and it was just like, there was people telling me, like, and they were taking it seriously, that were like, okay, you're clearly like experiencing postpartum depression. And then like some people, you kind of pushing it off and being like, brushing it off and kind of dismissing what I was going through. So it just felt very like isolating. And then actually physically being isolated because like I didn't have my car. And we lived like where there's nothing around, there's nowhere to go, nothing to do without a car. So yeah, I felt like my whole existence for the last 7 months has just been like hard. I don't know how to explain that.
Yeah, and how have you found your way out? Like, what is kind of...
I'm still in it. But lots of things. Moving and having like more support around us for sure. Trying to find things that I enjoy. So like reading, trying to find like my creative spark, which has been really nice because I think I'm starting to find it again with Isla doing homeschool. Like me getting the chance to create activities and do arts and crafts and all that stuff with her has been like really nice to kind of pull me back into that creative space, which I love and has been missing for a while now. I think since we moved to our last place, so that would have been like a year and 2 months.
Yeah.
Pretty much since I found out we were having Zeke, because like the exhaustion and all of that, I just kind of like what else? Being around people that loved me and cared about me for me as a person, not because of who I was to the kids or to you. Really important. What else? Vitamins. Being like finding a doctor that took it seriously and like did the blood work and looked at everything and was like, okay, you're depleted here, here, and here, and here. So getting on the vitamins, working out, not much, but enough to like feel something. Antidepressants right now to get over this little rough patch. Yeah, lots of stuff. Being around people that care about me and are supporting me and like really calling me out on doing the things that I need to do. So like my cousin, for example, being like, no, like ordering the vitamins that I need to take because worrying that I'm not going to take that step, and so removing it so that all I have to do is take the vitamins. People that genuinely care about my well-being, which I don't think that I've really experienced in a little while, since probably like having Isla. I felt like I experienced that with her. Like I felt like I had a really strong support system around when we had her versus when we had baby boy.
Mm-hmm. So I feel like there's a lot you can unpack there. I think I like the one about like the people that love you for you. I think that is an interesting thing to like.
Yeah, well, when you become a mom, I feel like your whole identity is almost shifted into motherhood, right? Like, especially like people call you just to check on the baby. People don't really give a shit about you, and I feel like that starts the moment that your kid comes out. Like, they don't care about you.
Yeah.
So it's just like,
yeah, they're
it's
like
a sad
calling,
thing.
They're calling.
They're like, put the baby on.
Yeah,
Where's the baby?
Where's Isla?
Like,
Where's Zeke? Like, they're not even.
They're not checking on me.
Yeah,
right. Like,
that's very
so true. Being around people that do check on me, that do value me as a person, like I was saying, like my whole identity, I feel like was wrapped up in motherhood, and not necessarily by choice, but because that's like the reality of motherhood, is that often you don't get to have much else other than motherhood.
Mm-hmm.
And like if you say that you want more, you're seen as a bad mom, or like you're not enjoying it, which I love being a mom. I love my kids. And for me to say I'm more than just a mom, like there's nothing, like every mother is more than just a mom.
Yeah.
You're a person as well. And I feel like by me saying that, it seemed like I didn't appreciate being a mom, or I didn't, stuff like that.
And I think that's interesting in itself, is that the idea of mom versus dad and the bars for mom versus dad. So I find that funny because like that's really what I think about, because like being a dad, you get compliments for like the littlest
doing
thing,
nothing.
Like,
you can literally put the baby on your chest and people will be like, oh my God, you're such a good dad. Versus if I'm baby wearing, oh, you need to put that baby down. You need to, like, there's always just yapping. People always have so much more to say.
Or even changing diapers. Like, that is one thing, like, oh my God, you're changing his diaper. Like, you're so good. Like,
bare minimum.
Like, I realize, and that's like a societal social standard, is how low we have set the bar for fatherhood and how high we have set the bar for motherhood, and how the disparities are so off and so bad. What? You widen it? Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. It is so terrible because, like, for the fatherhood side, it's like you're getting praised for doing the littlest easy, like the stuff you should be doing no matter what. Like, it's not even in conversation what you should be doing. And then on the other side, for I think the bigger conversation that doesn't get talked about is the motherhood side and the detriment that it plays, that nothing's ever enough. Like, you need to have a career, you need to be a mother, you need to be a good sister, you need to be a good friend. Like, you have all these layers and it's never enough.
Daughter.
It's a daughter, like all of it. Like, it's never
everything.
It's never like enough. Like, you can't, like, even if you do have it all, like Savannah has her education, has her own private practice, and is a mom of two.
Homeschooling.
And it's still, people are coming to her saying, oh, you should be doing this, or what do you think about doing that, or this and that.
Yeah,
and it's just
people
like,
are always going to question your decisions and make you feel like you're not doing enough.
Yeah. And that piece, and like how on the other side, it's like fatherhood, it's like, oh wow, you're literally just a father, like literally just being a father is like the praise all be all. It's like you're an amazing, you do everything, and it's just like the bare minimum that is late. And it just made me realize, wow, our expectations for men is so low, and honestly made me think why. Like, maybe, like, obviously we live in a patriarchy society, but I feel like it's so much more nuanced and layered than that. Yeah, it makes me really think, to be like, wow, like, was it the older generation? Is it our generation? Like, what?
It's a combination of everything, and I feel like, I don't know, like, there's never an expectation for fatherhood to be all-consuming. Like, dads are expected to have hobbies, expected to have, like, all these other things going on outside of it, where it's just like, so I guess maybe it's part of like, oh, you managed to do all of that and be a dad. Well, like a mom can do all of that and be a mom, and it's still not
enough. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's like that's been, and the thing is, I think what's also interesting is that every relationship and every dynamic with motherhood and fatherhood looks different. Like I don't think there's one defined role or definition. Like again, because we live in the patriarchy, there's the breadwinner, and then there's the mom, and then there's this, and people say that there's stay-at-home dads versus all that stuff. I think it all is different. Like it's not just one or another, because I feel like you can, like Savannah's saying, you can play the mom but also be a provider at the same time. So it's like, or vice versa, or whatever it is. So I feel like it's depending the circumstances, as there's like socioeconomic circumstances, there's like help circumstances, like how much are your family involved, and how much is that. So with our circumstances, I think it's interesting because you have taken the complete motherhood role in that sense. Like you haven't got help. Like you haven't you have help, but like the main thing, like for example, something that we less believe in is we don't just give our kids off and then go do whatever. Let's say people are always like
our kids come everywhere with us. We do everything with our kids. Yeah. I've never spent a night like away from our kids. Like our kids are always with us. Like we are like, I don't know, like we had kids and we are raising the kids.
Yeah.
Like.
And that's something like even we talked about, like we went on vacation a couple times and they're like, oh, are you bringing the kids? And we just we're like that's like a non-negotiable for exactly. Yeah. And that's what I mean. It's different for everyone, but it's like a non-negotiable for us. It's like yes, like no, like there's no not having the kids.
Yeah.
It's like the kids are a part of our life no matter what.
And like even like running errands, like we don't run errands without our kids. Like if both of us are going, our kids are going.
Yeah.
Like,
and I think that's just again how we like to do it, and there's no right way, no wrong way. It's just how we feel comfortable in doing it. Mm-hmm. But I know there's other people and other like that. It looks like different. It looks different.
The reason why we do that is because with Isla, like I didn't really have postpartum depression, but I had severe postpartum anxiety, and I didn't trust anyone with her, and I didn't like. I could not separate from her, and I didn't care to separate from her either. Like I love her, I always want her around. So yeah, and I feel like you just kind of supported that. Do you feel like that's true?
Yeah, with Isla for sure. I feel like just making sure, I think the big thing was making sure that you're comfortable with it, and I was okay with that too, because a big thing is just safety overall, making sure that she feels safe. And I understand that with motherhood comes that enduring feeling of safety. So I think it's not just Isla's space to keep safe. I think it's your space to keep safe on top of Isla's. So I completely respect it and think that. But I think what's interesting what you just said, and we can kind of dive into, because honestly, I didn't even take it in fully, but like the difference between, like with Isla, you had postpartum anxiety. With Zeke, you had postpartum depression. Mm-hmm. And I think they experienced, what was it like, the difference in experience. So obviously you spoke a little bit about anxiety, but I think.
So with Isla, it was like this deep-seated fear that something bad was going to happen, that someone was going to take her. And like you guys can read my thesis on Max Fear, and like it'll go into, it'll explain that situation, why I felt the way I felt sorry. Mm-hmm. And with Zeke, it was just like dread, and I think it had to do with partially like not being able to be like me with Isla anymore, so feeling like I wasn't being a good mom to her because I also had to take care of this new little person. And like it wasn't just like every second of every minute her needs were being met. It was just like, hey, you kind of gotta wait. You gotta, like, it was just simple things, but it made me feel horrible. And like I just don't understand how, like, for the longest time I couldn't understand how people have multiple kids. Because it's just like, it just felt like a part of me was just being like ripped apart every single day. And I was exhausted. Like he didn't sleep for what,
the first, like,
3 months, 4 months. He didn't sleep, so
probably,
I didn't sleep.
First had 3 were really bad, and then he kind of
slowly started sleeping a little bit more.
Yeah.
And then I think I had more support with Isla. Like, we lived at home. We didn't live together technically.
Yeah.
So it was just like I was around, like, that, what I was saying, people that cared about me for me.
Yeah.
Right? Like, yes, like, a lot of people were still like, let me see the baby, but also COVID, so I could just kind of be like, leave me alone. But I was also around people that cared about me for like, so like my mom, my brother, my sister-in-law, like, people that genuinely cared for what I was going through versus being isolated.
Yeah.
And like my mom being like an hour away. Like, she still came every week, but like it's not the same.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that is interesting. And I think the other piece too is like to transition in our life too, because it's interesting because where we were at in our lives, kind of going through what we're going through, to be where we're at now compared to where we were at then, even 7 months ago, is a different trajectory. And I feel like that's a whole dynamic that is interesting to kind of look at overall, is that there's different levels of where you're at in our life, because we're still in the progress of like starting our own practice and building our own business on top of me working on top of 2 businesses, and then on top of you were doing your thesis when you had Isla, and then you finished your thesis, and then you're working on your like building the business. Obviously we took a back seat with that when we had Zeke and just focused on him and her homeschool, but there's a lot of shifting things at once. It's not one thing shifting and then we can just focus on that thing shifting. It's like everything's kind of rotating and moving around at once, literally and physically. Because I feel like the moving piece, like
we've moved like how many
4 different times since Isla.
Been born.
Yeah, 4 times. So that piece of it, I think, is, but I think the best part about it is, or I think that piece of it is that we've been able to adjust on the fly and figure out what works best and just try and change things up and try and be better. I think that's kind of all it can really be, is just like, I feel like that idea that there's a perfect time. Like, I always hear, like, even our friends, like, we're the only ones in our friend group that have kids, and it's like, or like, I feel like a lot of people, and it's just like, and everybody's waiting for the right time, and
everyone's trying to plan it out, which honestly, like, I do get.
I get because the sense of ease, but I just think there's not necessarily
the best time. You can like prepare for it all you can. There's still going to be struggles, obviously, but it does, like, I do get it. Like, and I think after having kids that weren't like completely planned out, like, that I get it. Because like, also I was 23 when we had our first, so it was just like I was still doing my master's, so you know, there's no maternity leave, there's no, you know, like, setting things up. Like, there's nothing wrong with trying to set things up to be the most advantageous, you know, like.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything. I'm not saying there's anything wrong. I think it's the idea that there's no set perfect time, because like, even if there is maternity leave and it helps, but I'm talking about the deeper nuances of the depression, the anxiety, all that stuff. Like, there's no preparing for what you're gonna experience, because I feel like each one is different. You never know, and circumstances change, things change. It's just, but I guess it's just our sense of, like, as human beings, being able to try and control a situation and do what's best and what you think is best